All right, welcome in everyone. We are live today with quite a few sets actually. We're starting it off with the Workshop Wars Row Division, starting off with Overtaken versus Matze. The winner of this set will face up against Doubt next. Afterwards, we will have Honey Badger versus Ark. And Red Kensky, thank you for the raid. Just starting the stream. This is actually a great time to be joining us. I was just going over the schedule for today. We're starting off with Overtaken versus Matze. Afterwards, we will do Honey Badger versus Ark. Those are the only two sets played currently in the Pro Division playoffs. And then afterwards, we will do Chipmunk versus Hoyo and Biscuits versus Maxi from the group stage of the community edition of the Workshop Wars. But without further ado, let's jump in. If we look at the drafts here for Overtaken and Matze, and Huns are Huns, thanks for the follow. We will start it off on Huangshan Mountain Madness, and then Matze has Straight Seas and Quick Mats, which is essentially a nomad with all the workshops. And Overtaken has Bog Aftermath and the Dutch Blitz map. And in terms of bans, there were a few civs globally banned in the Pro Division following the group stage, according to the rules in the handbook. The 4 most played and 2 most banned civs are globally banned, which is why we don't see, for example, Mongols, Persians, Lithuanians, Romans, the Goths, and the Tupi being represented here anywhere, as they are quite strong on these settings. But yeah, let's just jump into game number uno here on Huangshan Mountain Madness. 2 TC starts, 4 total workshops, so that should be quite fun to watch, as I have loaded the game in Capture Age. And here we go. Here we go. Alright, so in the blue we have Overtaken playing as the Koreans, has the line of sight bonus on the villagers. And then Matze is playing as the Britons, of course having the sheep bonus. There are 4 total workshops on this map. 1 on top, 1 at the bottom, and then 1 in between your 2 town centers. And Matze is already doing basic... Oh no, wait. He is sending the villagers here and a scout to contest the workshop up top. So far, no loom on the villagers. Loom just came in here. And this is where Overtaken, who has loom as well, will be sending his scout. This scout, I think, should be fighting here as well, or at least be blocking. But the village is being sent here for Overtaken. And of course, meanwhile, at the bottom, there is also some vill fighting going on. Now there is 2 workshops in favor of Matze and 2 in favor of Overtaken, who has brought 4 villagers up top, so not a lot of chance here for Matze to contest it yet, but more villagers are on the way. And this is exactly why we installed the villager boxing gloves mod. Meanwhile, nothing really happening at the bottom. I think Overtaken is just fine with leaving the bottom one in favor of Matze. But a lot of vill fighting scouts. No more scouts for Overtaken. This is Matze's final scout, and his scouting is, well, it's not that great. I think for Overtaken it's a bit better, but that is mainly because of the villager line of sight here, and he is using the villagers to scout for more sheep. Of course, yeah, this is definitely a mess of a map Chipmunk and welcome in as well. But I think the 2 TC start in general is already quite chaotic. And then you add the workshop in as well, which will make it even worse. This villager literal 1 HP and Overtaken is walling in 1 villager here. So in theory he should have a villager near the workshop that cannot be killed. Unless of course there's archers around. House being repaired, villagers not being fought. I think still fighting here would help. In terms of rest collected, it's relatively even. In terms of idle time, Matze is doing better job there. But I think having control of 3 of the workshops for a bit longer definitely helped there as well. Matze also expanded out to the berries over here. Great source of food for the long term. Is missing some sheep. Could push these deers potentially. But for now is just content with keeping at least control of this workshop without much contest. And Overtaken does not even send a villager out to double check there. Don't think he's ever been there actually. And then this villager being idle all the time to keep this workshop here. I don't think that is the correct play either. But of course these players are 1000 elo above mine, so maybe it's what should I know kind of situation. I love the fact that Matze over here is chopping wood relatively close to the workshop, even though there is no way he can contest it with the idle vill here. And finally, there is some contesting here from Overtaken again, walling in the vill. Of course, these palisade walls in Dark Age will go down quite fast, but repairing will always be faster, at least for the villagers. Now houses don't block, it is actually just units that are capturing the workshops. Like buildings don't hold the buildings don't hold control of the workshop. Like you can just build around it, but you cannot hold the workshops with it. And more villagers here for Matze, who still has the rest collected lead, but Overtaken is gaining in on him, and that is because of those 3 workshops, even though he has some idle villagers here. And I think for now, for Matze, the biggest thing would be get to feudal as fast as possible so that he can get some archers out to kill these villagers. I think this villager is kind of unnecessary. But here, as I was looking away, one of the villagers that was walled in, the villagers from Matze broke through, but then Overtaken simply just adds another villager. Yeah, technically he could sneak along the backside here too and get control of all 4 of the trade workshops, but I think with how close they are both to being in feudal, I think the resources and villager time maybe should be going towards that. In the meantime, Matze is scouting around a bit, definitely looking good in terms of scouting his own side. Of course has no clue what the opponent is doing. But then the same goes for Overtaken. And both will reach feudal roughly around the same time here. Now there is a mining camp here on stone for Matze, so I think he might want to do some towers. Maybe just a little bit of a lag spike there. But no real things going on with chat there. And as I was about to say, stone is the only resource that the workshops don't trickle. And let's see what we get from Overtaken. Overtaken opening double range at the bottom. Nothing yet at the top. For Matze, there is nothing at the top, but nothing really at the bottom. I don't see any military buildings, so this could get quite dangerous for Matze. And both players up to the castle age. Fletching coming in for Overtaken, who also automatically gets the archer armor upon reaching the next stage. And no blacksmith upgrades just yet for Matze. Also, no eco upgrades for Matze. No, wait. Just got double bit, and double bit at what's already in for Overtaken. We'll decide to will fight here. Did capture the trade workshop from quite far away. And will now drop a tower here, but with the amount of archers and double range production, I'm not sure if these villagers will make it out alive. Tower will go up, especially if there's more villagers being sent. Still an eco lead here for Matze as well, who has done a great job of keeping his TC running. I think Overtaken may have kind of forgotten about the second TC here, leaving this one completely idle. And one tower here, not enough to deal with the archers. But at least there is 5 villagers inside who are safe. That is just a palisade. And here we go. Castle drop, I think, right over there. That will force some action from the archers, as some of the archers are looping around. 2 knights out as well, or about to be queued. And then a very forward castle with 26 villagers, if Matze ever decides to look over here. Castle will need to be placed again, but I think he's busy looking here, and this is looking terrible, terrible for Matze, who decided to do no feudal army, who is now dealing with knights. Knights are not in his eco though, they're just chilling around. And this castle is denied by the feudal aggression. I think the other castle over here also, it's not denied per se, but losing that many villagers and not really having an answer to all the pressure from Overtaken. Matze calls it, and game number 1 goes to Overtaken. So Overtaken played with the Koreans, and then Matze played with the Britons. Let's update that here as well. So quite the late pick there for Overtaken, but also quite the late pick for Matze. Of course, this is a best of 5. And I would agree it was quite fun. I think definitely at the lower brackets, something like this that Matze attempted with the double castle drop could work. But with the double range and the knight opening on both sides for Overtaken, I think maybe a bit more defensive castle here, and this castle never had a chance of going up with all the archers. I think maybe if it was near the TC. Oh wait, I should be on the capture H if I want to do that. Yes. So like I was saying, I think the castle here at the bottom had no real chance of going up with all the army around. This one, maybe if it would have been back a bit more. But of course it was also denied by the siege workshop, which definitely delayed it because Matze was not really looking over there. But let's go over the statistics. Of course, the feudal times and castle times were relatively similar, but I think we can see here in the army numbers that when Overtaken started making army and pressuring Matze. Even though he had a weaker eco because of the Vil count, I think the triple workshops saved his eco there. As Overtaken has out, I think, yeah, it's almost 2,000 more resources collected in the end. But yeah, feudal times roughly the same, castle times exactly the same. And then of course, APM also quite similar. And then I think this is where there was some archer micro and denying castle micro. But let's go over to game number 2. We go to Overtaken versus, let's see. And up next, we have the Trade Seas map. There we go. So, on Trade Seas, players start on an island, kind of like islands, but there is 2 trade workshops here out in the middle of nowhere. You start with junk, and both players going to a different trade workshop, so that is nice. Each one will have the rest have control over 1 trade workshop, which will mean they will likely have the rest for a dock relatively soon. Overtaken choosing to go out for a lumber camp first, and is already pushing in some deer as well. And Matze currently just scouting around, but did bring in the boar relatively fast. And of course this dock will help with the collection of the shorefish, which is a faster source of food than sheep and boar. But no fishing ships just yet, and with the... oh, never mind. First fishing ship coming out here for Matze. And with that, he can of course try to sneak to the other trade workshop as well. But for now, Overtaken is just there with his junk. As Overtaken is also getting up his dock. I have to say, I like Overtaken's plan here a bit more. Doing a more standard build with just starting with 5 on wood. Instead of going in for the dock first and then having to chop check stragglers here. Because I would have expected, at least, that Matze, especially as the Celts, would have wanted to take these wood lines first. But Matze now also pushing in his deer. And the fishing ships are just fishing. Not really trying to contest the other workshop. Now both players, when they start, they will know the position of the trade workshop, so that is why they were able to just instantly go to the other, or to a trade workshop. That they went to 2 separate ones is completely chance. And Overtaken looks like he pushed in all his deer. Does still have 1 boar to take. And this is also one of the slower maps in terms of build-up. There is, of course, no real villager fighting here, and feudal. It's really the only moment where you can start to do some aggression on water. Matze building a house. Will the house be on time, or will he get housed? He will get housed. But I think if he drops off the resources, he would be able to click up here. Given that there is almost 300 food in the hands of these villagers. And with 17 vills, 2 fishing ships, Matze clicks up first. We'll send more villagers to wood. I think that is just simply to get the wood for the mining camp. Of course, there is a small trickle of resources here as well from the trade workshop, and Overtaken quite heavily on wood here, but like his eco will be better. We'll have more fishing ships as well. Has a second dock up way before Matze, but I think with the Celts that is not really that big of an issue. I'm not sure why this ville is going all the way here. I would preferably get the docks a bit closer. But I assume that there will be a dock here as well around this shorefish. And there we go. So 2 lumber camps, some extra houses, so Matze won't get housed. And Matze will get to feudal, and Overtaken just clicked, so this could become somewhat of an issue for Overtaken. As neither player is on gold yet. I think with the starting gold you can kind of get away with the first few ships not being on gold, but I think after like 4 ships you definitely want to add in the mining camp there, as Matze is now going for a 3rd dock. 3rd dock being added for Overtaken as well. Still has a significant eco lead because of the fishing ships. 8 for him, only 3 for Matze. And I would not find just sending these both immediately out to the trade workshop. Of course, fishing ships can garrison. Meanwhile, this trade workshop completely unprotected. The junk is currently on his journey to go to the docks from Overtaken to get more gold income. That is currently also the only gold worker that we see up top. And I don't really like this adding in the fishing ships for Matze this late. Especially up against Vikings. Like, you did arrive to feudal quite a bit earlier, but then also you need to take out the docks, and Viking docks, of course, are cheaper. There we go. Galleys now being added in. Matze saw the Hulk opening, and it is more and more Hulks for Overtaken. And here we go. Villagers go off to the mining camp here. And more on wood as well. Did get the Bidex upgrade. So we need to switch back to the water. We have more and more ships on the field here for Overtaken. Still only on Hulks. So once the galley number gets big enough, these Hulks will have to run. But for now, they are just running away. Also, no fletching yet. 4th dock here added for Matze. And not a great fight, but with all the docks here, fishing ships garrisoned, Overtaken has to fall back. The uncontested trade workshop on the bottom is still uncontested. And here we finally see the blacksmith coming up. And I think once fletching is in, Overtaken will start to struggle a bit with the amount of hulks he's doing, but fire galleys are there to protect. But I think with the amount of galleys that are currently out, the fires as well need to be careful here. But Overtaken, his eco is looking like he wants to go Castle Age. Let's have a quick look at his eco. No blacksmith yet. Is going for the mill, so cannot have a market either. More galleys coming in, 14 on the field in total. They're all here, trying to contest the workshop. Fletching coming in. Maybe jump the gun there just a little bit with the engagement. But I think Matze should really be thinking here about the transition to Castle Age, because Overtaken will get there relatively soon. And I think Vikings in Castle Age, they are one of the strongest civs on water maps. And Matze now is getting there with terms of villagers or eco units on food. And I think Overtaken is simply waiting for the next hill. And there we go. Sold the stone. Overtaken up to Castle Age. Matze will not be too far behind. Could unqueue some vills and be close. Did of course get the blacksmith already. But will need a market still. As we see the market coming up here. And I would not be surprised if we force drop here and click up as well. Now in terms of army numbers, relatively equal. But I think the goal here for Matze is to survive with the amount of galleys that he has. He's adding in some hulks here as well to deal with the fires. To potentially deal with the hulks as well as a body block. In the meantime, Overtaken has snuck out to the bottom trade workshop. Captured that. Just one fire over there though. And right here, some fires are being annoying, but not too big of an issue for the hulks there. There is a big score lead here for Matze. Rest collected though is relatively even. I think the biggest issue here will be there is no fletching for Overtaken, so if he wants to go for longboats, he will need to get fletching and then Bodkin before he can really enjoy the true power of the longboats. For Matze, he currently has fletching of course already, will probably be in a solid position here to just start pushing. But with the medium warships almost in for Overtaken, we'll need to be careful of when he takes those engagements. And this is a great maneuver here from Overtaken, trying to flank from both sides. But I think the force here on the right slash bottom is simply a bit too weak. So the ships can simply move away for now. And Bodkin is in, medium warships is in, and this is the moment that Matze can fight back. Matze will of course need to go to the workshops as well. Because that is the whole reason why we're fighting water. But so far Matze is looking like he's in a great position. And if he's able to clear some of the docks from Overtaken, and it could get quite rough, but Overtaken quite the big navy here. Lots of fires. Which of course will counter the war galleys if they can get close. But with the hulks up front to body block, like I said before, in a great position to just keep dealing damage. But there is simply not enough hulks. We do see demo ship coming in. And against all the fires stacked up, that could be something, although definitely not as strong as the demos were before the water overhaul, of course. And hulks are out, fires are out. Demo ship upgrade is in. Will it be enough? Is the question, because a few minutes ago I was saying Matze was in a great position, but looking at it, Overtaken has done a great job, and I think that's partly because of the trade workshops giving him that extra res eco is, of course, a bit further ahead. Also has handcart already. But I don't think that is the main reason here. Like if Matze would have had at least one of the trade workshops, he would have been in a much better position here. And Matze now trying to switch into hulks of his own. Still no longboats out for Overtaken playing as the Vikings. Yes, a lot of these ships from Matze are quite weak. He's getting the forging upgrade. But looking at this, I think it's just waiting until Matze realizes that he doesn't have the numbers anymore. And I think especially when Overtaken starts to consider going for longboats. With the amount of hulks that are on the field for Matze, I think the game would be over so fast. But so far we're switching back into fire ships, it seems. Of course, fire ships are great to take out docks. But Matze decides, I have seen enough. I lost my navy here. And Overtaken will take game number 2 as well. As we go into the statistics here. Matze with some trade profit from the junk, but of course not enough to keep the eco going. And once again, I think most of this comes down to Overtaken simply having control of the trade workshops. And Overtaken in this game looks like he definitely warmed up a bit more and spiked his APM a bit more than Matze. So we go back to the draft, and I will update the civs here as well. As we had a Vikings first pick versus the Celts second pick here for Matze. Definitely looking very good for Overtaken here. One more win to get him through to the next round, where he will face Doubt. So let's see who we will see in the round there. But of course, Matze still has a chance to do the reverse sweep. Maybe Matze now also warmed up as well. Up next, we will have Quick Mats, which is the Nomad variant of the Workshop Wars. And everything is set on my side, so let's go. Alright. So in the blue, we will have Overtaken, who has already captured one of the trade workshops. Of course, there are quite a lot of trade workshops here on the map. Trade workshops on this map, as you can see, like they will give you some res, but the trickling effect has been reduced because of the amount of workshops on the map. Overtaken here, playing as the Dravidians. Could be cornered in here by Matze if he realizes. Matze scouting, not aware of where Overtaken is, and Overtaken did see the foundation when he tried to go to the workshop to get the dock. Of course, Matze playing as the Chinese. Chinese already very strong on nomad-like maps, especially if they can gather food earlier, so they can immediately start producing vills, which is the case here. Especially with 4 out of the 5 workshops here being controlled by Matze. He will have the rest for at least one Vil. And by the time that Vil pumps out, there we go. Vils are out and collect. Will still go for Loom though. Probably partly because there is some Vil fighting going on over here. And with that, Overtaken is forced to just run around in circles, and then Matze can never catch up. Or is this walking around in circles will have to be done manually. You cannot just roam around. And with that, Matze currently has control of all workshops on the map. But of course, the workshop here is relatively close to Overtaken's TC, so I think that would be in control of Overtaken for most of the game. I'm not sure where this villager is going. This villager is going to the far workshop as well to get the other workshop. And I think Matze will realize where the TC is from Overtaken, seeing where the villagers come from. More Vil fighting here. A villager trying to take down one of the palisades here. Overtaken. Only one villager though, so we'll need to send more. Also another house. But so far it is, let's see, 1, 2, 4 workshops for Matze as the Chinese. 2 fishing ships out already, 12 villagers. No idle time, has Loom. And then we have Overtaken. Only currently has 3 workshops, but on 9 Vils and 1 fishing ship. So definitely a bit later, and the docks are relatively close. Matze also knows where Overtaken's dock is, and Overtaken does not know. So I feel like Overtaken, once again, in a very solid starting position here. Will need to do something about this walling in of villagers. But so far it's 3 workshops versus 3 workshops. And Matze dropping a lumber camp here, so wants to have a bit more of a villager presence over here. Knows that Overtaken is around there somewhere. Lots of these vills are on there. 7 or 5 vills in queue now for Matze, and I think, as he just got housed, that is the downside here of, as the workshop is taken by Overtaken. Who is deciding to once again wall in a villager. And this time right next to the house, so he could have the villager used to punch down a house. And I think that was a slight mistake there for Matze to just leave his villager completely unattended, or the workshop completely unattended. Could unqueue some of the villagers and click up to the next age though, and then once he does that, would be in a solid position to pump out maybe some archers, put some pressure on water. But let's see what will happen. Like I said, the villager here will start to punch down a house. And Matze saying GG. I think the admins need to adopt the unwallable terrain next to the buildings. And I do agree with that. We will definitely look into this as admins. But with that, Overtaken takes game number 3 and will be facing up against Doubt in the next round. Again, quickly go over the statistics here. Of course, no military because this was full feudal. And resources collected was definitely ahead for Matze. I think he was still not in a terrible position. Maybe resigned a bit early there. But I get how it feels with most of the workshops being controlled, and then also just having basically no way to contest the workshops in an efficient manner. Because of course you could send the whole village, but then that is not really that efficient in terms of getting all the villagers walking time, collecting time that you're wasting. But Overtaken takes the set and will face Doubt in the next round. And up next, we will have Honey Badger versus Ark. I will quickly update all the scores here. For now, let's do this. As we will get the draft sorted. Right. Then of course also need to reset the score here. Update the stream title as well. Look at me being a pro caster. All right, set number 2, Honey Badger versus Ark. We will start it off on the map that started it all. Aftermath. This is just the standard version of Aftermath. And this, once again, is the pro bracket. And the winner of this set will face Freakin' Andy. So 2 Onimaru players made it into the playoffs here, and both of them won their group stage group, which granted them a bye in the round of 12 straight into the round of 8. This capture H is being somewhat annoying. But here we go. Capture H scene. Yes, alright. So in the red, we have Ark playing as the Japanese and Honey Badger playing the Berbers in teal. And it looks like both players going out to the workshop on the side. No, never mind. Honey Badger has a scout on the workshop on the right, is sending some vills here as well. Berber villager speed definitely helping there, and Ark currently does not look that concerned with contesting the workshops, which I think is a mistake. I think the opponent having 2 workshops will get out of hand quite fast. Of course, there is some villager idle time here, as we have villagers just standing there doing nothing. And I also think it's a bit too early to look at the rest collected to have it reflect properly. But so far it's still relatively even. Still relatively even for rest collected, even though you have some idle vills. Does not feel that great. But maybe Ark has a plan here. Could maybe do some Japanese rushing of the men-at-arms, right? As Honey Badger, I think, is also just a bit confused with what Ark is doing, sending his scout over. Definitely a bit of a Vil lead here, as Honey Badger idled his TC basically for a Vil. And of course, Ark did not get Loom. But I think now that Ark is going out to the trade workshop, he will find there is a Vil, and with the scout already taken some damage, and the Vil of course also having Loom, will not be able to capture that one. And then over here there is a villager as well, and there is a barracks up already. And no barracks yet for Ark. Well, I think this may get worse and worse the longer the game goes. We see the rest collected starting to pull in favor of Honey Badger more and more. There is one militia, one scout. Woodline though is walled in. This palisade wall may be a bit... could use a few more hits, but villagers here could definitely fight this off. Villagers though don't have Loom yet, so that could be dangerous. Although it's only one man-at-arms and a scout. No real weak villagers here. And Loom now coming in for Ark. We'll still need either a barracks or... there we go, the barracks coming up. Could also still place the mill. Of course, Japanese will get cheaper mills and lumber camps. But the fact that Honey Badger has clicked up here, already has a militia out. Will lose the scout, but the militia can still be annoying. Potentially do some more damage to the scout. Or just roam around. It's also a possibility. As we also see the mill coming up, mining camp coming up, and this looks like a more standard build here for Ark. Doing a somewhat standard Japanese drush. Honey Badger only 16 villagers, but is up to the feudal and is producing more and more militia. I don't think they will, especially on this side, will not really be able to harass the berries. I think with these two militia, maybe with the scout as well, Ark could get control of the trade workshop. But definitely not looking too great for Ark, I would say. But let's see, maybe he will be able to take control of the trade workshop here. The villager will fight the scout. Scout does a great job of blocking, and finally we have a trade workshop in control for Ark. Who is getting the man-at-arms upgrade, but the barracks is being taken down by the now man-at-arms. I think it's not fast enough to deny the man-at-arms upgrade, as we have 3 militia still going over to Honey Badger's base, trying to find some damage. More repairing of palisades. No military production out of the barracks, but we have a range and archers are being produced. Technically, the men-at-arms, as the men-at-arms currently, are just attacking the mill, not what you want to attack. Want to attack the vills there. And could find a vill kill there. Nope, never mind. Meanwhile, repairs are still happening. Farms are being added. The first archer is out and will start to snipe the men-at-arms. Bearville goes down. And maybe this was the correct play. Like, Ark currently ahead in rest collected. We'll take out the mill. All the repair vills will probably die to the men-at-arms if they are not careful. There is some weak vills in there. Idle vill here. Ark, no idle vills. Has dealt with the men-at-arms. Currently 8 on the field. All 8 of them are at the trade workshop. So Honey Badger will gain control of the workshop once again. I think Ark here can once again try to snipe some vills. As we see the blacksmith coming up. And most likely fletching coming in as well. As the archers here will push the villager away, will gain control of this workshop. Berries not denied anymore. I think the men-at-arms here will also just deal with the men-at-arms from Ark. Yeah, the villager that was protecting the trade workshop goes down. And that makes sure that Honey Badger is not housed anymore as he's building a house. We'll get the blacksmith as well. Has not really produced anything besides the initial men-at-arms, but his resources are looking quite nice to go to Castle H. Ark, not there yet. But I think a big part of that income was simply from the trade workshops. Of course, with the barracks so close, he could always just send out a militia or a pikeman. As we now see a tower coming up. Men-at-arms fighting the men-at-arms. Archers behind. Great engagement here for Ark. Will clear up the men-at-arms. Still has one left of his own. Could potentially find one vill kill. Could potentially find 2 vill kills. And that is 1 vill kill. Archers will need to stay underneath the tower though, and Honey Badger can simply hop in and out of the tower to fight the archers here. There's one very low HP vill there, and the villager will live. In the meantime, Ark has control of both of the workshops, even though this dude is standing right next to it with no other units. Ah, there we go. And both players are up to castle. Honey Badger a bit faster and was forced into a tower. But that tower provides cover for berries, potentially the stone, the gold here as well to some extent. As we have archers attacking the house. And Ark going for some outposts. He is going out to the outside berries and woodline as well. Getting archer armor here for Ark. And I wonder what Honey Badger will do. We do see the stables, so I'm thinking knights. As more archers are looping in through the back. Of course, we'll need to be careful with the tower being present. He knows about that. As we see all the eco upgrades come in. Second stable here as well for Honey Badger, but his eco is not really there anymore. Only 22 vills. Did idle for quite a long time there. But does make it to Castle H first and will start producing knights. And even though we have 14 archers on the field, I think the archers will struggle with that initially, at least until they are upgraded. Which I assume Ark will do immediately. There we go. Crossbow coming in. Botkin coming in as well. I would not be surprised if these 2 archers are just going to the trade workshop. And then we have some archers Here, who will see the knights? Just passing. Crossbows in. And those knights, no upgrades, no bloodlines. So that's not a fight they want to be taking, especially not with the reinforcements coming in. As we have a second TC coming up for Ark here. And a siege workshop for Honey Badger. The crossbows cannot really do a lot here, I think, with the tower. The villagers around here could definitely be sniped. Workshop could be denied. No, never mind. Crossbows arrived just too late. Nothing produced yet out of the workshop because there is simply not enough wood yet. And I think Honey Badger here is in a position where he needs to do damage. Not in a terrible position, like resources collected wise, not looking great. But with the knights on the field, having the mobility could definitely find some damage. But if you're just running under TCs, that is ill-advised without any upgrades. Meanwhile, crossbows are just being annoying. Still only 27 villagers for Honey Badger. It feels so terrible, and more villagers going down. Now we did see the university here. The university is up. We're waiting, I think, for the wood here. Wait, for this wood. As Ark is currently just taking out the farms, and I don't think he realizes how much that actually hurts Honey Badger, who has currently only 7 on food. But we'll need to be careful here with the mangonel. We do see the mangonel. And the knights currently are just attacking the outpost. Ark smartly moves away. I think is maybe addressing some things at home, like being housed. We'll need some houses somewhere. There we go. But second TC is up. It's more crossbows here. They will definitely deal with the villager there if they ever decide to actually go over there. They can see it, mainly because of the monk. And this can be dangerous. Very dangerous, actually. Did hear a conversion sound, so Ark was probably looking elsewhere. Did lose quite a few of his crossbows. Still has a definite lead in army count. Not sure why we're not moving this any closer. Knights were converted, are being healed up. Monks are out of monk juice for now. As we have crossbows here, coming close. Dealing with the knights. Knights over here. Dealing with the stolen knights from Honey Badger. Monks got their juice back, will try to convert. Knight runs away on 5 HP, and GG is called for Honey Badger. Ark takes game number 1. Well, initially I questioned the regular opening here, like not going for the trade workshops, but it definitely worked out because Ark had the more non-trade workshop dependent eco. So when he got them and lost them, it didn't matter that much. Where in terms of eco for Honey Badger, I think his eco really leaned on control of having the trade workshops. As we see Ark leading the military score. Quite a solid KD. Although 25 to 22 is not what I would have expected. But the army high 29 versus 13 is definitely, I think, what won him the game here. as we can see that the resources collected heavily in favor of Ark, despite not having control of the workshops for quite a big part of the game. We can go back to the draft, where we have Ark taking game number 1. And I will also update the draft here to reflect the civs being used. Berbers was the second pick from Honey Badger versus the last pick from Ark. That must feel very good here. If you're Ark, must not feel that great if you're a Honey Badger. But it's only game 1 and a lot can happen. As we will have Trade Seas up next. And once again, we have Ark playing in the red. You start with a house, so technically you only need one house. But I guess a lot of this is just muscle memory for a lot of these guys. The same thing happened to Honey Badger. The nice thing is that you at least are not housed for quite a while. Once again, both players are going to a different trade workshop. So one trade workshop in favor of each player. Ark playing as the Portuguese will have slightly stronger navy and slightly less gold cost on the navy. And Honey Badger playing as the Celts, who will have faster wood income, which in big naval battles can definitely help. Honey Badger does know where his deer are, but is not pushing them in just yet. And Ark pushing in his second deer, I believe, given that there is one already underneath the TC that is about to run out. Was not quite fast enough with pushing it in on time. So I don't mind having these wheels on wood in the meantime, just to avoid them being idle. But I think for the next one, having them on sheep is also completely fine. And here we will see one villager from Ark starting to create the dock. Dock already finished here for Honey Badger, so slightly faster. And we'll start with the fishing ship immediately. And I assume that for Ark, as soon as his dock completes, he will be constructing that fishing ship as well. And there we go, fishing ship is in queue as well. So Honey Badger, I wonder where this fishing ship is going. I think it might be going to the other trade workshop here. I think that might be nice, but I also think that could be a mistake, because most likely the junk, if you have not seen it yet at your dock, will be there. Other fishing ship or second fishing ship is just collecting fish. But having this fishing ship idle, I think, is a waste of resources. I think this junk will not move as long as it's not attacked. And I think Honey Badger realizes that and will send the fishing ship back. In terms of resources, collect the Ark slightly ahead, as he is pushing in his final there, is getting his final boar. And once again has gone for a relatively traditional setup here in terms of eco, on water maps at least. Same goes for Honey Badger this game. He is not relying on the workshops as much. Of course, only has one of them captured, so cannot heavily rely on it. But I assume that after the 20th villager here, Ark will most likely click up as we see Loom and Feudal on the way for Honey Badger, who's moving out to a second lumber camp. And I assume some of these vills will go to gold here. Definitely a different approach than what we saw in game or in the games from the previous set, where going to gold, in my opinion, was very, very late. As we see the second dock coming up, second dock is already up for Honey Badger. Could potentially see a third dock as well. I see one more house coming here, and there's the third dock. Third dock. Second lumber camp here for Ark as well. And Honey Badger will have about a minute of feudal timing advantage. So let's see what he can pull off with that. If he can use that feudal timing to get the series back to 1-1. The third dock now coming up for Ark as well. And I think both players will be very hesitant to go out to the berries. I think as long as the fishing ships can stay alive and the resources from the trade workshop can trickle in, there will be enough resources coming in, keep villager production going, and maybe even some eco upgrades, as we saw double bit coming in here for Honey Badger. Honey Badger opening with 3 fires, pushes away Ark's junk, and then immediately switching to galleys. As we see the relatively the same here from Ark, opening with 3 hogs and then switching into galleys. Or no, opening with 3 galleys and then going for hogs. We'll need to micro here. Almost lost 1 for free. And I think repairing here definitely worth it. Especially with the reinforcement here from Honey Badger already on the field. No fletching yet for either player, but the blacksmith here for Ark is coming up. I don't see a blacksmith yet for Honey Badger. As Ark, I think, has done as good as he could, but it was not great. He currently only has 1 galley on the field, 3 more in queue, 1 in each dock. Ark did sneak out here to the trade workshop again with his junk. So Ark using his junk very effectively. Not something you hear every day. Fishing ships here could go down, especially if Honey Badger waits to attack, but Ark notices before the attack comes in. We'll lose 1 though. And Ark will simply decide, I see what you're doing, going to the other trade workshop. I don't like this, because this trade workshop is so close in terms of being able to get your ships back, and then this one is so far away. But Ark is now killing Honey Badger's junk, and with that will take control of the trade workshop. Well, the junk will survive, I think. But I think this little maneuver here that in the end did end up killing Honey Badger's junk will cost him 1 dock and potentially even 2. The fishing ships here are idle. The mill has come up. Of course, Portuguese will also get some wood from the berries, but I don't think that is enough to offset it initially, especially if you're in need of docks, if you're in need of ships, and all the other things that will cost wood here. And second dock here that might go down for Ark. And Honey Badger's looking like he's in a great position. Definitely used his feudal timing there to his advantage. These ships from Ark stuck here, even though they have the home court advantage being supplied with new ships straight out the dock. Honey Badger will need to send them a bit further, but the army count 20-3 is enough to make Ark tap out of the game and making Honey Badger tie up the series 1-1. Oh, no, not much more statistics. And I definitely think it came down to just the feudal timing here. Just the feudal timing, I think, was enough. Combined with the opening of doing some fires, immediately followed up by the galleys. And I think that initial opening there maybe threw Ark off a little bit. And like I said, the maneuver going out for the other trade workshop, I also don't think that was worth it. That gave so much control over all the docks to Honey Badger, which then in turn led to, well, what we saw there at the end of the game. So let me update the civs used here, as we have the Celts being victorious and the Portuguese, so that is both players using their first picks. Very interesting. But up next we have Before Math. And Before Math is essentially, well, it's Aftermath, but before all the chaos. So we have Before Math, essentially with the two trade workshops here as well. Instead of all the walls going down, the walls stay up, and it's actually regicide. So we have a king, a Malay king here, wandering out and about for Ark, and the king from Honey Badger, who's playing as the Armenians, also out and about. And both scouts going to the same spot, both kings going to the same spot. And I think it comes down to who will have the first hit in terms of scout engagement. Kings, of course, cannot attack each other. Once again, Ark without control of any of the workshops in the early game. And Ark is just running away. Did get the hill advantage there. And ends up running away, even though I think he had an advantage. Wolf here trying to snipe a Vil. No loom on the Vil. Villager will die to the wolf, as the wolf gets the diagonal kill. And that can be very annoying. And I think we can all blame Nilly on that. But Malay, with the faster uptime, can somewhat recover this, although I think having control of the workshops might be a bit more valuable. As we see Honey Badger flicking up to the next stage. Ark not that far behind, in terms of res at least, but as the Malay could potentially still get there faster, although I think that window has now passed. And resources here are looking very good for Honey Badger to go for a faster castle. King here will need to run away as the scout now arrives. Villager arrives as well. Now the king is of course faster than the scout in Dark Age. As we see Ark trying to block off the king's walking path, not trying to wall in the Ville. And this is dangerous territory. You will not know when the melee reach their uptime with feudal, but king survives. And I think the spearman will now take over the guarding of the workshop. Leaving the king out there could be a massive mistake here. As we look at Honey Badger's base, Market Blacksmith, and up to Castle Age. And of course the starting eco here definitely helps Honey Badger, but having control of the 2 trade workshops, bringing in all that res helps as well. As we finally see the king moving back, and I assume the king will garrison in the castle. We see the market. No market yet. Do see the blacksmith. There comes the market. And in terms of food, Ark is not quite there. I think he would have loved to have one of these workshops. We see another villager coming over for Honey Badger. But once again, Ark slightly ahead in terms of eco when going up to the next age. So his eco is definitely stronger when the trade workshops do get lost. And on the other hand, I think Honey Badger with the Armenians, like only needing to have 1 mule cart here for both the gold mining and wood chopping. Quite nice. Could potentially just drop a TC here later. You see that Loom getting in here. And immediately going for some composite bowmen. No extra TCs. We'll get Bowsaw. Currently only fletching for these composite bowmen who already don't have the biggest of ranges for units. But I think if there is enough of them, and it will depend, like they get in range of either the castle or the towers, they are quite flimsy with only 40 HP. But there is a fortified church here protecting the trade workshop. With some warrior priests being made as well. And Honey Badger simply roaming around. Ark did make a few karambits, but is going for the eco approach here. Adding in that second TC. No second TC for Honey Badger. Now remember, this is a standard victory game, or at least it should be played as standard victory. So technically Ark could just get all the relics, place them in a monastery, for example, here, which is a very nicely wallable corner. As Ark currently has control of the trade workshop. 1 relic garrisoned, so that will fire some arrows. The warrior priests, 1 being produced, 1 coming back. But I think these karambits will simply die to them, especially with the arrow fire here as well. And I think this is a solid tactic here for Honey Badger. With 1 more relic coming in for Honey Badger as well. Final relic is over here. And Honey Badger has not scouted where that one is just yet. Will we see a third TC here as well from Ark? who has the rest for it. And there we go. Third TC coming up. Will need to grab this relic though. And Ark also does not see it. We have more Karambits fighting warrior priests, but once again the relics providing, I think, a bit too much in terms of arrows for the weak Karambits. And Honey Badger almost 1500 ahead in terms of rest collected, while Ark is playing the eco game, playing 3 TCs. Imp on the way for Honey Badger. Has the stone for a castle, could drop it forward. Final relic has been picked up and the timer has been started. Ark, of course, will see this. We'll see that there is a monastery over here. We'll see that there is a monastery over here that holds relics. And the villagers are coming forward, I think, with all the warrior priests and composite bowmen here. I think castle will go up no matter the amount of Karambit spam here. And this is also a very solid position to start your Imperial Siege push with. Ark decides I don't need to worry about the timer. I'll drop an extra TC. I will start adding in some ranges. I think crossbows are a great choice here. But I think the imp timing here from Ark might throw off his plans of the extra TC. I think if he knew imp timing, this TC would not have been placed down. Now the nice thing is that Honey Badger did sell, or not sell, send a lot of the food villagers. So might not have all the resources he wants in terms what you want for upgrades. But we'll have the resources for at least 2 traps, probably even more. As we immediately see a trap being queued. Fletching in queue, archers are being produced here as well. Eco is looking quite solid for Ark, and he is gaining in on the resources collected deficit. Could definitely use Horse Collar here, as we see another castle being dropped. And this castle is going to be a huge problem for Ark. As the initial trap here from Honey Badger is out, second trap is in the queue. And I think as soon as Ark has 6 archers, soon to be crossbows, you'll just need to send it to deny the castle. I don't think you can wait a lot longer. Could potentially sell some resources to get Botkin, but with the composite bowman here, I think denying the castle will become a lot more difficult, and the castle here will go up. And I think Honey Badger, even though he's only 29 eco, used the power of the trade workshops to his advantage. Got to him first, as Ark managed to get the rest collected evened up, but has no answer to the push from Honey Badger, I think. This Ark is desperately housed, will need something in terms of housing, is placing a lot of houses here in the back, but I think he needs to place more. As the front of his base is being sieged and GG is being called. So, Honey Badger. I have shrunk a little bit in terms of where I placed Capture H Otter. Or placed the camera in terms of positioning. But on the other scenes, I should be slightly bigger again. Don't worry about that. Yes, we have Honey Badger with the win. So Honey Badger could potentially close out the series next game. And I think looking at the way the sets currently are going, or the set currently is going, I should say, Ark is trying to do a more meta approach where he doesn't want to rely on the workshops as much, whereas Honey Badger is basically all in on the trade workshops. And if he does not get control of the trade workshops, then like we saw in game number 1, then the strat basically falls apart for him, as we saw Malay and the Armenians here. I am sorry for the flashbang, Otter. I have met dark mode. I will do that soon. But not for this stream. Because of the way that I have set up the draft system in my OBS. But we will go back to Capture H, where we will have Honey Badger playing as the Malians and Ark playing as the Hindustanis on Huang Shuang Mountain Madness, the map with 4 trade workshops, 2 TCs, and I think the most vil fighting of the tournament, as Honey Badger once again just rushes out to the workshops, has collected 3 of them. Ark has not even collected the one that is between his TCs yet. It's like he has completely ignored it. Some scout fighting here. I'm assuming there will be some scout fighting over here. Although Honey Badger is sending out a vil, is getting loom, so is fully prepared for some vil fighting. As Ark sends his villagers on the bottom side. And we'll go for a lumber camp that is relatively close to the workshop here. Scout fight. Villagers are... Oh, I thought these villagers were being sent to vil fight. Instead, they will go for the mill. Scout will go down. Ark will get control of the workshop temporarily, at least. And the villagers here are simply at an impasse. Will not fight. Out behind, simply patrolling. Over here on the bottom, Ark will need to send more villagers or he will lose his trade workshop. Scout will go down. And Ark bringing in the Rhino. Villagers fighting. I have to say this is a lot less vil fighting than I have expected from this map, but Ark throughout the series has been quite reluctant with going too heavy for the trade workshops, which sometimes works out, sometimes I think is a mistake, but with the amount of workshops in control of Honey Badger here, you can already see the rest collected starting to shift in his favor, even though he has less eco. And here we finally see some good old vil fighting. Ark will need to send more. Is sending some more. We'll send the weak vils here back to wood. Villagers fighting the scout. And I think if the scout goes down... Ooh. Would have thought that the vils were out of range there, but apparently not. This woman will definitely not make it out alive, as will this man. Oh, woman does make it out alive. And I think Honey Badger here has to run. Will run around though, sending in more vills. On the bottom side, villagers simply add an impasse. I believe the wall-in should not work, but we did see in the previous set that the wall-in did work. So I will contact Huggy about that. But the walling in the vills should not work, or at least you could probably just say walling in here should work, but then that the capture radius should not see that as something in range of the capture radius. As we see more vills here coming for Ark. More vills on the bottom. Vill fighting as well. And potentially this villager just running away actually helps Ark in terms of capturing the workshop. Over here, some weak vills being sent back. Honey Badger decides I'll just send the village. You will not have enough villagers here to fight me. Like, it is more than double the HP in terms of villager HP. It is almost certainly that Honey Badger will keep control if he can get a lumber camp here somewhere. And instead it is a mining camp. Not a bad choice either. As we are nearing the feudal age click up here for Honey Badger. Are quite far away, even though he has 29 on food. Some of that is berries, some of that is on the outside. And Honey Badger clicks up first. Ark, though, not too far behind. We'll lose another villager. We'll wall in some villagers here to vill fights. And Ark tries to go for the counter walls. The villager here will go down. Weak villager running away. One vill from Honey Badger goes down as well. Ark still not has clicked up. Could unqueue some vills, but I think with all the vill fighting going on, is just in the habit of I need to queue vills and I need to not idle my TC, or TCs in this case. The rest collected are relatively even. Do we see a barracks somewhere? I would not be surprised to see some form of barracks. No barracks just yet. From either player, I believe. But Honey Badger, being on stone so heavily, could simply put down a few towers on this side. Could potentially tower here as well. Ark has queued up Feudal Age. And what will we see from Ark? Alright, first tower. Seems like a safe tower here in the back for Honey Badger. And this one here, I think since Honey Badger has more control here, also a relatively safe tower. Barracks coming up here from Ark, who has quite the vill advantage. Rest collected as well. Once again has the rest collected advantage, even though he does not have control of the majority of trade workshops. An idle here. Ark's resources looking like he could do a fast castle. Market here coming up from Honey Badger. That will be his first building to click up to the castle age. Could potentially sell some of that stone or just simply buy the food with the gold he has. We'll go for the blacksmith. It's idling once again, idling 2 TCs, so maybe not the best choice there. And one of the vills from Honey Badger actually snuck in to try to contest the middle workshop from Ark. As Ark reaches the feudal age, And it is range blacksmith on the bottom. As we will see, I think, comparable castle timings here. And this tower might be a bit of an overreach with no tower in defense here. But there will need to be some more villagers that are being sent to contest it with the villagers around. And another mining camp, another tower. And this tower here starts to contest the forward gold from Ark, who has clicked up to the castle age, is ignoring the tower creep on top for now. Maybe he just has not realized that the towers are there. Definitely sees one. And Ark now being on stone as well. Has still not realized that his woodline is in dire need of some relocation. And finally realizes. Alright, we do see bloodlines coming in. But I think a castle somewhere here, like where the mill foundation is. I'm not sure if it will fit. But that would be devastating to Ark's eco. Since he will then lose his town center most likely. And I think Honey Badger realizes as well that he just wants the castle there. Ark though reaches the castle age first. Will get Bodkin Arrow immediately. Will get Husbandry. And Honey Badger going for the castle on the backside, so he will contest not only the town center, but the trade workshop in the middle here as well. Ark going for a lot of houses. Ark could simply drop a castle here. That would contest the workshop there, but instead is going for the castle on the bottom to deal with Honey Badger's castle. Some cav archers are out. Ark, in the meantime, I didn't even notice, but has snuck to the middle workshop to get control of Honey Badger's workshop, who now walks with some villagers and gains control of it back. So Mangonel and 2 Geppetto in queue for Honey Badger are going full cav archer villagers. Once again, Ark not really contesting the trade workshop on top. I think is a bit too preoccupied with the workshop contestment at the bottom, but is doing a nice job with the cav archers over here. The Veil fighting cav archers, not the greatest choice, but if there's only 2, that could be good, but you will have to shift queue your Veils, and if you don't notice anything, then you could lose your entire woodline. And I think that might be one way for Ark to get back into this game. I'm saying get back into this game as if he is completely out of this game, but has a very solid eco lead. But once again has no control of the trade workshops, and this time he has 2 castles on his face. Both of his TCs are contested with the castles. I don't think he has the army here to deny it. Archers being annoying as well. And villagers are running. Could potentially see some stone being bought. Or a castle, perhaps. Or are we just waiting to mine the stone naturally? Nope, we did buy it, and don't like this position. I would like to see it a bit more forward to at least kill the TC. But I like the thought idea here at least. Villagers here hiding in the corner. castle here still protecting a lot of Ark's eco. Who, despite all of this aggression, still has 66 vills, has the military advantage. But has no way to deal with the castle here. Could potentially maybe make a few elephant ramps. Hindustanis don't get the regular ramps, I believe. And Ark now going for the TC on Honey Badger's side. So definitely looking like a base trade over here. And I think it will become a race of who can get to imp the fastest. Ark once again has control of the middle workshop, killing some more vills. You also see the armored elephant. Armored elephant though is going for the town center up top. No armored elephants on the bottom yet. And only 28 vills for Honey Badger, and Ark is doing a great job with his army to keep all the vills suppressed. And actually most of those 28 vills are right here on Ark's starting, or between Ark's starting TCs. And Honey Badger not creating vills out of this TC, not creating vills out of this TC, is simply waiting. No more vills on the wood line. They were all sniped earlier. I think this is one villager that has been lost. Score slightly in favor of Ark. Not looking great in terms of score. I think score is kind of deceiving Ark here maybe. I think he would be further ahead in score. Especially as he has 5,000 more resources collected. Is going for another TC here. And that is a very forward castle. I'm not sure if that castle can go up. But Ark will need to see it first, of course. Market will eventually go down if the armored elephant... I think the armored elephant will not get the market down. Although I think with the castle being here, eventually we will see the market going down. Honey Badger sending the entire village. 16 vills here. And then some of the siege. Ark realizes what's going on. Does not have the stone for a counter castle or tower, although I doubt that the towers will be enough here to deny the castle. But I think a lot of these vills will go down. I don't think it's enough to deny the castle. It is if Honey Badger decides to just run away. 19 vills left for Honey Badger. A failed castle drop. And Ark doing a sick job here of microing down all the siege. Not losing too many villagers. Or not losing too many military. And Honey Badger calls the GG. And Ark ties the series up 2-2. So we will have a decider match here. Game number 5. Round of 12. The winner of this set will face Freaking Andy in the round of 8. As we can see that the military count for Ark was simply higher. Once again, going for the more economic approach. And if he can hold on, it definitely works out for him. Quite well. But I also think that the castle here was maybe a bit of an overreach. Maybe a castle either here, perhaps here, would have been better. I'm also not sure with the idle time, like compared 25 minutes of idle time compared to only 8. So definitely looking great there for Arc. As we need to switch scenes. And once again, sorry for Otter, who was flashbanged by my not using dark mode. As we used the Hindustanis here for Arc and the Malians for Honey Badger. And finally, we have game number 5. It is on Quick Mats, Honey Badger's final home map. So theoretically, he should have an advantage. If we look at the civs he has left, Bengalis and Gurjaras, I definitely think Bengalis would be my pick in this situation. For Arc, I think Spanish makes the most sense. It is Nomad after all. So let's see if I am correct. And it looks like I am not correct here. As we have Honey Badger playing as the Gurjaras, not the Bengalis. Now all the players will see where the trade workshops are on the map. But the trade workshops, given that there are 6 of them, will have less of a trickle than on the other maps. As we have Arc here placing his TC relatively close to Honey Badger's TC. As Arc currently has control of 3 of the workshops. Honey Badger has control of the 3 other workshops. As we here have 2 villagers building the TC, and I think the third one, where is the third one? Wandering up top, probably looking for a place to dock. And I would assume the same for Honey Badger here, although he has 1 villager here building a mill, not building a house. But of course, as the Gurjaras, the sheep will bring in some extra food trickle as well. Building the house in the back. I don't think that villager will have enough line of sight to see where the TC is. Arc getting loom, not housed. And no loom yet for Honey Badger. We'll need to run away. We'll also need to be careful of the TC here. That's Arc going for his first fishing ship. Loom coming in here for Honey Badger. And oh, what a great wall there. And the villager dies from Honey Badger before Loom got in. Honey Badger did lose control of the workshop behind Arc's TC. And currently only has 2 workshops. And I think with the issue with building your TC in a corner like this, sure, you're relatively close to one, but all the other ones are so far away. Although you could make the same argument here for Arc. I think a TC like somewhere here would have been more advantageous, given that you simply can go a bit easier to the other workshops. But so far, I don't think there is a dock for a Honey Badger. There is one for Arc. was once again taking the more economic approach. The nice thing about the militia, of course, is that they don't need to be tasked to attack. Villager versus villager fighting here. I think Honey Badger got the first hits. So Honey Badger will simply just win that fight always. But like I was saying, the militia don't need to be tasked to attack. They can simply wander around, collect the trade workshops. And then if a villager or a scout or some other unit comes close, they will simply attack it. Whereas here, there is a villager just chilling, being idle, not collecting resources. And I think on quick mats, the resource trickle is not enough to match the rest trickle from a villager. I could be wrong on that since the trickle is simply a bit less. But currently Honey Badger has control of all the workshops. There is a lot of will fighting going on everywhere though. Eco counts once again quite heavily in favor of Ark. And Honey Badger choosing to spend his food and gold on the militia instead. And I do think... oh no. Honey Badger still hasn't seen where the TC is exactly from Ark. Although I think he has a very good suspicion where that TC would be. But with Honey Badger having control of all the workshops, and I like the attempt here from Ark trying to wall in the barracks there. But simply not enough. Dockville has disappeared. I think that might have been the ville that went to this trade workshop over here. Quite the long distance boiler here for Honey Badger. But I think with Loom he should be fine even if he does not house trick. Now I think in terms of eco count, Ark being up 9 eco units, which is 19 villagers, 7 fishing ships. In terms of military, it's definitely in favor of Honey Badger with the 7 militia, although the 7 militia currently are just standing around all the trade workshops. That does not mean they don't add the value though. As we see Honey Badger using the power of the workshops once again to click up first. Although only 16 villagers. And I think with the stone being here for Ark, he could just use the protection of the TC. As we see one Vil potentially go down. Nope, Vil runs away. As the militia is now being Vil fought instead. But I think Ark is doing a bit too much eco here. We'll need the second building still. As there is more villager fighting, or villager versus militia fighting going on. And the villagers simply walk away. Militia keep patrolling the area. As we now have 33 eco units, soon to be 34. Still no second building for Ark. As the feudal age is reached by Honey Badger. And mining camp for Ark. Not the greatest mining camp, given that it is so close to Honey Badger, who also has access to stone. More Vil fighting, or villager versus militia fighting. As Ark finally clicks up the feudal, 25 villagers, 10 fishing ships, has a solid eco and is keeping up with the control of workshops from Honey Badger. But without the fish, that could not have been the case. And I also think that if Honey Badger would have invested into fish himself, he would have been in a way better position, although he's not in a terrible position now. Up to castle, dropping a stable, and dropping outposts, so he can see quite a bit here in terms of what Ark is doing. Can see the vills over there, can see the gold being mined. Ark realizes I need to delay that stable for as long as possible. Ark already on stone, can simply go for market and blacksmith. Cannot go for the market because he did not have the mill. And without having control of the trade workshop, he will need to send some more villagers onto wood. I think this is terrible for Ark, actually. Not having the wood here. And let's see. I think the correct call here is to not make the scouts. If you're so close to castle, you want to have your castle unit out of the stable immediately. And here we have the Shrivamsha Rider. We will have the forging upgrade. No other upgrades for Honey Badger. Who currently only has 2 on food, 3 on food. Now it's 5. We'll of course have the mill, which will bring in some food trickling as well. Ark losing 1 vill, losing 2 vills. These Shrivamshas can hang out around the TC a little bit. Not too long though. And I think like a few walls here to help secure these stone villagers a bit more could help as well. Ark has snuck 1 workshop. And did sell quite a bit of res to buy more resources for the castle. These villagers over here will need to run away. There are still some militia roaming around. I think there is too many Shrivamshas right now to fight head on. Honey Badger opened with an armored elephant. I would have expected the mangonel. But 20 seconds away from Castle Age for Ark. We'll need to do a very defensive castle. And Honey Badger going for the market first. I don't think these Shrivamshas can... Maybe they can. I think I would have thought, but the TC is full. The TC is already full. And with 2 armored elephants here, I think... Ark deleted. Ark deleted. It's fine. It's not great, but he can try again. As we have some walling off. I think the castle will go up. Ark's eco definitely not looking great. Shrivamshas. Oh, garrison. There we go. Castle goes up. Villagers are fighting the armored elephants. And the first conch is in queue for Ark here. Now this has definitely taken a toll on the eco for Ark. What? The first conch is out. The Shrivamsha number is down to 3. I think it was definitely worth it to try to get as many Vil kills as possible, especially with the amount of damage it did, but Ark still has the villager lead because once again Honey Badger with 6.5 minutes of idle TC. Still has control of 5 of the 6 workshops. Fishing ships currently for Ark. They see some deep fish somewhere. And another market being produced. And Ark will get to Honey Badger's base here. Now the Shrivamshas will dodge the bullets from the conchs as well. But I think once there is enough conchs on the field... Although I have to say there's quite a few Shrivamshas here from Honey Badger as well. Nothing being produced out of the siege workshop, which is understandable since there is not really anything I think Honey Badger can do to pressure, but it is taking up some time from the conchs, which will give the Shrivamshas some time to reclaim the once lost trade workshop, but in the meantime Ark will reclaim the trade workshop behind his TC. As Ark is also going for monks, could snag this relic for some extra gold income. And as fast as Ark lost or claimed the trade workshop up top, that fast he lost control of the one on the bottom. There is a barracks coming up, presumably to get the stable to get bloodlines and husbandry. And currently Ark is trying to get control, I think, of all of the trade workshops. But with the Shrivamshas chasing, with bloodlines or with husbandry in as well, their speed 1.76 and the conchs only 1.3. So they will not be able to run away. And Ark once again has to build up his conquistador numbers. Could once again just simply send one out to the trade workshop in the back. Monks trying to convert. One conversion happens. 2 conversions happen. Another one gets sniped down by the conchs. 2 monks go down. All in all, not a terrible fight here for Ark. Yes, more Shrivamshas are on the way. Bloodlines coming in as well for Honey Badger. And once again, Shrivamshas under the TC. This time it's not a fully garrisoned TC. But I think with the castle being around, Shrivamshas will need to run away. And Ark did relocate his dock, or did he simply add in a second dock? I think he just simply added in a second dock here. Going for a fish trap as well. I think. Does Honey Badger know of the dock? He does not know about the dock. He does know that he needs to get devoted. Although there's currently only 1 monk on the field. Oh, it's 2 monks. 2 monks on the field, 1 in queue. Monk got saved. This one did not get saved. And I think that the Gurjara pick here, being able to go for the Shrivamsha riders, is actually a great shout from Honey Badgers. And I think that might win him the game here, although once again Ark's eco is looking quite solid. He just cannot seem to get a hold of all of the trade workshops consistently. As we see a third TC now being placed by Honey Badger as well. Monk got sniped by the light cav. And 13 Shrivamshas over there are no joke. Simply 5 conquistadors will not be enough. And I'm not sure if the missionary choice here will be enough to deal with it. One more monk goes down. Konk's slightly out of place. The converted Shrivamshas are in the fight as well. But I think this is a great spot to fight for Honey Badger. Honey Badger getting some eco upgrades. No eco upgrades for Ark just yet. And I think this is looking more and more like Honey Badger's game. But the longer it goes, the more Conquistadors Ark can mass. If he can push, if he can get control of some of these workshops. I would like his position a bit more, but for now, Ark consistently losing monks to scouts. Not getting the conversions he needs. But the fights somehow keeps going in his favor, and that is just the power of conks and some monks. And there is some weak Shrivamshas in here, so I think the fight definitely in favor there for Ark. Who is on stone, is buying some wood, or buying some food, selling some wood. Could potentially just add in another dock in the back as well. Going for some fish traps here. I think most of his food income is trade workshops. And then the fishing ships. I don't think he is on food anywhere else. More Shrivamshas hop out. Monks though push them away. Not big enough Shrivamsha count for Honey Badger. Monks will heal up all of the hurt conquistadors, but now there are some monks as well for Honey Badger, although I think one monk will not be enough to deal with all the, or the one lonely monk from Honey Badger. There's no conversion there. Once again, a few of the workshops could simply be captured by Ark, and that would put him in such a better position. Instead, he forces the issue, ignoring the trade workshops once again. Although this is terrible for Ark, diving a bit too deep with the conquistadors. Although, once again, with the monks behind, I think it will work out in the end. Gronk, in the end, did get sniped. But the army numbers, we see trade cards as well from Ark, trying to trade with the enemy. This might have been a bit of an overstep from Honey Badger, running under the TCs with just a few of the Shrivamshas. Diving under the castle there for a bit as well. There are more Vil snipes, although Kongs apparently cannot hit anything, as they miss quite a few of their shots there. And in the end, the trade cards did get cancelled. One Shrivamsha here trying to deny the TC. The villagers fighting the Shrivamsha actually working. We'll lose one villager for Ark doing that. But I think with the TC here, that will give Ark solid control over at least this trade workshop. TC here will give him a good way to contest the middle trade workshop. Now the back trade workshop could simply be captured by simply going over there. And Ark is doing a great job of just being annoying with the conquistadors. The missionaries as well, just roaming around. And finally we see husbandry coming in for Ark. As the mill goes down, the piggies inside go down as well. And what I would love to see here for Ark is just a few more units on food, maybe some eco upgrades as well, to try to get to Imp. I think skirms here will not cut it for Honey Badger, especially with all the monks behind. And these skirms are just skirmishers, they're not elite skirm yet. And I think Ark is in a very solid position now. Like, it looked very dicey in the beginning, but once again, ignoring the trade workshop, surviving the early onslaught, and then using your better eco. Although I say better eco as the rest collected clearly still in favor of Honey Badger. As we have 17 conquistadors here simply attacking the stable. Alright, let's see what the elite skirmishers can do. There is no ballistics yet, and Ark reacts immediately. Ark also up to Imp. Honey Badger nowhere close. As we have a siege workshop coming up. More villagers on stone. Honey Badger trying to do some damage. Did kill a few vills by the looks of it, but monks are going to the back to deal with that potentially. Shirvamshas and skirms. Don't think they are enough here to push away the conks. Conks simply have too big of a mass. And I would not be surprised if Honey Badger here calls the GG once Imperial Age comes in for Ark. Was leading in score by almost 2,000 points as well. As ballistics will get in here for Honey Badger. And Imp does not even need to get in. Honey Badger calls the GG, does not have an answer for the mass of conks that Ark has, and Ark finishes the series 2-3, looking very strong in the late game, but I would say struggles a bit with the early control of the workshops. Let's go over the statistics. And I definitely think those 18 fishing ships here for Ark carried the food eco for a majority of the game, especially the early game. Let's go back to the drafts. We saw the Jaras lose. We saw the Spanish win. So Ark losing with his 3 last picks. And Honey Badger using all of his civs except for the final pick. And Radkansky, that is no problem. But if you want to do a Discord command or a Workshop Wars command, I should say, this is the Discord invite link to join the practice squad, where you can find out more stuff like the handbook, the brackets, stuff like that. But for now, I will take a short break. I'll be back in a few minutes. Because we finished up all the Plate Pro sets from the playoff stage. Earlier we had Overtaken versus Matze. The winner of that set is facing Doubt, and now we have Ark versus Honey Badger, and Ark will face Freakin' Andy in the round of 8. Up next we will have Chipmunk versus Hoyo, and then we will end the stream with Biscuits versus Maxi, so don't go anywhere, but I will be back in a few short minutes. All right, I am back. I see that I need to switch the score around real fast with the drafts so that it makes a bit more sense. There we go. All right, smaller drafts with the group stage from the community version. We starting it off with Hoyo versus Chipmunk. And then we will finish it off later with Maxi versus Biscuits. But Chipmunk here picked Trauma Pit, map we have not seen yet. Also did ban Amazon Aftermath, a map we also have not seen yet. But Bog Aftermath here is a map that we also have not seen yet, and that is the first map to be played. Vikings first pick for Chipmunk could be very strong here on Bog Aftermath. Byzantines as well though. And since this is not the pro group, all civs are available again, because in the pro division of Workshop Wars, because the playoffs have started, the 4 most played and 2 most banned civs are globally banned from the draft. We will do the same for the community event, but that will also mean that the community event could potentially have some different civs being banned in the playoff stage. But without further ado, let's hop into game number 1 of Hoyo versus Chipmunk. As we switch over to Capture Age, start this off, and I will change Hoyo to red so that the colors are a bit more visible, although I do think that teal and water might also not be quite visible. And Hoyo opening up with excellent. Chipmunk saying something is wrong. But I think Hoyo is talking about the civ matchup. Or just that everything worked. As Chipmunk sends his scout to the first trade workshop, immediately runs away, which allows Hoyo to capture it. Now there is a lot of water or shallows, so land military can walk here, but of course the water military also very strong on these maps. So far, Hoyo only going out to this trade workshop, does not want to contest the other trade workshop, perhaps assumes that Chipmunk is already there, but Chipmunk is not. Now he is. And there we go, capturing the trade workshop. As we see both players with a small trickle of resource income here. And the gate that is on fire still being used, good to see. Chipmunk sending in some villagers to wood. Now there are no fish on this map, so building that early dock is not as advantageous as it would be on other maps. And indeed, Chipmunk is playing. Bringing in his second war, trying to get that fast uptime. We did see some crazy uptimes earlier. And I think, given that Chipmunk has control of both the workshops, Hoyo's scout nowhere near. We'll give him a nice extra bit of resource trickle. Of course, the Vikings on their uptime will also receive the wheelbarrow upgrade for free, and Sci-Fly welcome in. So we see Loom coming in, and that might indicate that Hoyo wants to send some villagers out to Vilfight. Although there is not a lot to Vilfight out here. Simply one uncontested workshop and one workshop with one scout. Hoyo's scout pushing in there. That is obviously a lot better than not pushing in there, but I think the workshops here already in favor of Hoyo. or resources collected are in favor of Chipmunk. Hoyo slightly behind. Chipmunk, 17 villagers, and is sending out villagers to wood. Would assume at least a double dock opening here, especially from Vikings. Chipmunk only 9 seconds of idle TC. Hoyo 28 seconds, so one villager behind. For which he was also housed one villager. Hoyo lacking the trade workshop resource trickle here is forced to go more on food with the more traditional eco. And Chipmunk did realize that he lost the trade workshop. So he's sending the scout over, still nothing on the other trade workshop. The scout here could potentially get a villager. There is no loom on these villagers. Slightly risky from Chipmunk. As the second dock was not being built yet. Loom coming in. And Hoyo has clicked up. Going on to wood a bit more heavily, has a second wood line in case one of them gets pushed off. Chipmunk once again in control of both trade workshops. Is a bit behind in terms of eco, but I think that will even out once feudal age hits for Hoyo. And Chipmunk doing the smart thing, opening with hawks, knowing that Byzantines will likely want to open with fires. But it is triple dock here for Hoyo, which I honestly think he cannot realistically keep producing from. Don't think he even has the rest for double dock production at this point. But we will see. Chipmunk adding in the fires now. Hoyo did reach the feudal age. Nothing out of the docks yet, and as I say that, of course, hawks are being created. Villagers are being queued, but there's nothing on food for Hoyo. And Chipmunk trying to find his way into the woodline here, looks like. But Hoyo has walled off both woodlines at least quite nicely for now. Third dock for Chipmunk. Eco count looking relatively similar. Chipmunk's fire will go down to the hawks. But Chipmunk also trying to break in on top. Yeah, Hoyo is definitely all in with the food income. I think Chipmunk can survive this for the next 5 minutes. Then Hoyo is just completely dead. Like, especially with the trade workshops, which I think both players have kind of forgotten about. Hoyo could simply send his scout over to both and capture them. But if we're looking at the resource, or not the resource, the villager collection distribution, it's also looking better for Chipmunk. I think 6 on gold is a bit too much from what we're seeing in terms of production out of the docks. And then only 9 on food, and now Hoyo has realized that he needs to add in some villagers, but I think it's already a bit too late with the amount of pressure that Chipmunk is putting on, although we did see a fire here sneaking off to the side, capturing at least 1 trade workshop. Other one still in Chipmunk's possession. And that villager will simply repair the dock. I think it would be best to just take out 1 dock initially and then work towards the others. I think in terms of damage done, if we look at all these 3 docks, there could be 1 dock down already. But also with 10 fires out, I think Chipmunk just has too much of an advantage here on water. Maybe Hoyo, though, could sneak down some docks on the sides. As we see Hoyo using his Byzantine fire advantage, trying to get a good position, and he has a good position. Will lose his docks though, will gain control of both workshops, one with the scout, one with the fire. And the dock actually stays up, demos being queued here. Eco advantage still slightly advantage for Chipmunk, but if we look at the rest collected, 1,000 more resources collected. And I think this one Hulk can simply take out at least these 2 fires on its own. Demo hit once again. Not that great. That was a great demo. That was a nice demo. This is also a nice demo. Potentially. As we see Chipmunk selling some resources and looking like he is going to click up to the next age. Did lose a lot of his water advantage though, and will give Hoyo the chance here to come back on water, especially with the workshops that he has. Chipmunk only one wood line as he abandons his second wood line. Going for a third dock, and I think is doing the smart thing of currently just waiting at home until Castle H hit. Hoyo once again being housed. Has been housed for almost a minute this game. And I think if we position the ships smartly here, this fight should go in favor of Chipmunk. But once again, Chipmunk currently just chilling at home. Could potentially sneak out to the workshop on the side. As we see Hoyo slightly catching up. The villager count is even, but that is mainly due to Castle H being researched here by Chipmunk. As he gains control once again of one of the trade workshops. And we once again also have a huge lead in terms of army numbers for Chipmunk. At least in this fight. Some of the army here for Hoyo is here or over there. And Chipmunk reaches the Castle H. Medium warships upgrade is clicked. Hoyo nowhere near with the castle click, having only 50 food in the bank. Maybe a bit of a premature fight here for Chipmunk with medium warships 20 seconds away. It's a fight Hoyo loves to take though. Because once medium warships hit, I think this is a fight that Hoyo is guaranteed to lose. We have Bodkin Arrow coming in, longboats queued as well, and here they are. And Hoyo did manage to get back up to 3 docks. Once again housed. Desperately building more houses. But I think this is a fight where Hoyo needs to simply run away. Cannot take it, cannot take head-on fights, and Hoyo realizes. And Chipmunk takes game number 1. We go back to the drafts. Chipmunk and Hoyo both using their first picks in game number 1, Bog Aftermath. We had a win with the Vikings, a loss with the Byzantines. I will quickly go back to Capture H, go over the statistics before we dive into game number 2. And I think Chipmunk just having control of those 2 trade workshops early on definitely is what gave him the win here, like uncontested for so long. And we see it here as well, with more resources collected in every category except for stone, as no one mined any stone this game. And Chipmunk and Hoyo relatively equal in terms of APM, with both players looking at their eco roughly the same. I think Chipmunk a bit lower in terms of APM because he also had less to do, because he always had that army advantage. We'll switch back to the draft as we go into game number 2, played on Aftermath. And before we go back into the game, not better. All right. Capture H, and here we are. Game number 2, Chipmunk versus Hoyo. In game 1, I gave Hoyo red, so let's do that again. And in the teal, we will have Slavs. And in the red, we will have Incas for Hoyo. Now, essentially, this is the exact same map, except the shallows have been turned into just a regular land. And Chipmunk getting the first few hits here on the Champy from Hoyo would be huge. Killing the scout would be huge. Killing the Champy, because that will give free access, at least initially, to both trade workshops. Of course, Hoyo can always send his villagers. But Chipmunk with the Slavs already going out for militia play. That means his scout can remain over here on the bottom trade workshop, while the top trade workshop is secured with a few militia. Chipmunk brings in his boar. And is going for some houses as well. And he has done all of this without going to wood. This is the first villager going to wood. Oh no, that's not true. He did chop 18 wood from this tree as well. But did manage to get the barracks down. Did manage to get the militia out without any issues. And I think if Chipmunk is able to keep a few militia pumping here, he is in a very solid position. Especially if Hoyo only sends one villager, to simply keep the control of both workshops and then steamroll from there. Although, as we did see in the pro bracket with R quite a few times, it is entirely possible to survive because your opponent overly relies on the workshops. As we see Chipmunk, I think currently struggling a bit, was a bit late with the boar. And still has some sheep to collect as well. Like, his scouting is not that great. Only has sight of the trade workshop location and his base. I think we will see the same here for Hoyo, but in reverse. So Hoyo now also going for a barracks and is queuing some champies. Champies, of course, have the speed advantage over the militia, but I think with the militias already out on the field for Chipmunk, as he just misses both of his sheep on the front of his base. I think with the 4 militias already out, and I think it is 2 on each side, Chipmunk is in a very solid position to just keep control and not invest any more until he reaches feudal. And second barracks here for Hoyo, realizing he needs to do something about the workshop control from Chipmunk, I think. Going double workshop this early might not be the play though, as Chipmunk goes for Loom and will most likely click up afterwards. Has gone out to wood. Would have expected maybe the wood line to be here. Maybe here in the corner as well. Would have been nice. This feels a bit more exposed, although it's a bit more in the back. And we have one militia versus two champies. And with that, I think an extra militia would be nice. Although currently, health-wise, the militias are still in an advantage position. And Hoyo nowhere near clicking up the feudal. I feel like this is the same as last game, except an H earlier. Chipmunk has advantage because of the trade workshops, and then simply goes from that position. Did not do any outrageous things in terms of eco, I would say. Although I would like to see maybe one or two more vills on food. For now, though, he is pushed off of the trade workshop in the bottom. And I agree with Ghost Rider here that it could probably be good if it was not for the production time. But Chipmunk reaches the feudal age first. Can go for the man-at-arms upgrade for his 6 militia, and I would assume that we will have a... Yeah, we still have 2 there. I would have assumed those would have been on the way to the workshop here. Instead, we see one of the militias simply walking away, luring away all the champies. And champies luring away the militia here for Chipmunk, gaining control of both the trade workshops now. And this is where it comes down to how solid is your eco setup if the trade workshops fall away. And for Chipmunk, that is quite solid, has some farms going down. Is still missing the eco upgrades though, and it's quite easy to miss those with the trade workshop just giving so much res. More champies coming over to the trade workshop on top, but I think the champies will fall for the trade workshop on the bottom. As Hoyo still has not clicked, 27 villagers, 16 on food. Is adding in some farms here as well. 8 on berries. And continuing to produce champies. I feel like he has to. Chipmunk's scout will find where Hoyo is taking his wood, which will prompt Chipmunk to send his man-at-arms over. As we see double Bidex coming in for Chipmunk. Man-at-arms fighting the champies. Eco still in favor of Hoyo, although resources collected in favor of Chipmunk because of the workshops, and the men-at-arms are in. I think there is enough villagers here to fight back, especially with the wall off, scout being left out, and the men-at-arms simply not attacking. I think that was not a great engagement for Chipmunk, but did cause some idle time. As we see skill mill armor coming in. And it's 1-to-1 on the workshops as feudal is finally clicked for Hoyo. Which also will mean 2 minutes of not creating villagers for him. Although Chipmunk is currently not creating villagers either. But in terms of idle time, relatively equal. And not sure if this is a great fight for Chipmunk. With the amount of champions around, but it looks like the men-at-arms are doing enough. And the champions simply need to run away. Chipmunk's eco behind all of this, 16 farms, very solid. Would like to see maybe a second. We see a thank you. Probably received the trade workshop from Chipmunk. And Chipmunk did not even realize what he did. Ah, he gave back a sheep. That was nice. But, meanwhile, Palisade Gate is being attacked. The champion runner upgrade is coming in. As Chipmunk going for wheelbarrow, going for forging, has all the upgrades on his man-at-arms, has not made anything besides man-at-arms. Has finally found the final 2 sheep of his own. And Chipmunk, having control of both of the trade workshops, once again decides to ignore army presence there. Going for the wood line instead. Hoyo going for the trade workshop could cause some damage in Chipmunk's eco perhaps, but will need to do equal damage to what is happening to him. Loses at least 3 villagers, 4th one potentially as well. Nice wall off there, saves 4 villagers. But that settlement is going down really fast, and his arson is in. So currently only 3 on wood for Hoyo, with not enough res here to... Oh, never mind, he is dropping a settlement here as well. I was almost afraid that he would not have the res for another settlement. Did have the res to drop 4 barracks though. Not really utilizing them that efficiently with only 33% efficiency. And Chipmunk here looking like he's in a great position, clicking up the Castle Age. Attempting to take down some of the barracks here, but will need to pay attention to not lose his units. As there's more champions here, more champions here. So Chipmunk is all over the place, and he did lose all of his men-at-arms essentially for free at the front. The men-at-arms in his base though are doing a nice job of trying to clear up the champions. Champions on the wood line were cleared in the end. Chipmunk once again has control of both of the workshops. KD dead even. Eco KD though, 5-1 in favor of Chipmunk. Resources collected is 2000 ahead for Chipmunk. And the champions will die here for Chipmunk, or will die for Hoyo as they run through Chipmunk's PC fire. And mining camp, very interesting mining camp position. There is no gold anywhere here. Would love to see it maybe here. And a 4th barracks now coming up for Chipmunk. And I think as soon as we hit Castle Age, we can have the 8 men-at-arms that are on the field, 5 currently in his base. If we can get that number up to perhaps like the low 20s, we can start taking down TCs without any care. As we see longswords, we see chainmail, and we see squires. Chipmunk though will need to try to take back the trade workshops. Champy is currently attacking the wall of the wood line from Chipmunk, trying to raid the gold once again. And I would not mind if Chipmunk would just wall and then either wall with a house or a palisade. But it's becoming quite difficult for Chipmunk to gather gold, and the men-at-arm, or the longsword production I should say, has stalled out because of it. Walling behind once again for the wood line. All of the longswords currently on a journey perhaps to go to the other workshop. Hoyo behind all of this clicks up to the Castle Age as well. And what a time to join the stream indeed. You did miss game number 1, which also was quite fun to watch. But this feels like it was a very chaotic set to play with everything that's going on everywhere all at once. Man-at-Arms or Longswords currently en route to the workshop. Chipmunk loses his entire wood line. Does have a lumber camp for now. And Hoyo quite the high eco lead here. With 28 to 38. So let's see what Chipmunk can do about that before Hoyo reaches the castle. All the champions were cleared up in Chipmunk's base. There's nowhere else to look. We'll clear up these champions here without issue. There is no weak fills, so although that villager will die. It's one more eco KD in favor of Hoyo once again. Chipmunk though is ignoring the economy and is once again going for the barracks. Of course the longswords great at taking out buildings. Especially if we get iron casting in. But with the 4 ranges out for Hoyo. And slingers being queued. Not archers. Slingers. Chipmunk could maybe be in a pickle. Although army count 25 longswords on the field. And like I said, in the low 20s you can start thinking about taking out that TC. And that is exactly what Chipmunk is doing here. Adding in a second TC of his own to secure a woodline position. Champies in the back trying to deny some stone income, but the big thing here is the TC. Hoyo desperately repairing. I don't think that is the play. Although it did grant him some more time with the slingers, some more time with the villagers garrisoned. And the villagers still going down. Villagers though still garrisoned, so not the worst here. Although the eco count has evened up with all of this. Slinger count has gone down. And Hoyo nothing on food besides the trade workshop income. And I think if Chipmunk can get his 18 longswords, Chipmunk saying, don't do it, don't force me to play Cav Archers. But I think Chipmunk can actually do this without Cav Archers. Just needs to make sure that a bulk of the slingers is not there. And we do see fletching coming in. Chipmunk currently nothing on gold. Does have control of both the trade workshops though. And the reason he has nothing on gold is because TC coming up on the main gold here. And biscuits will come in as well. After this set, potentially after this game, as I realize I need to change the round of 12 as well. This is the community group stage. Oh, and GG is called, so Chipmunk takes it in 2 games. And I agree with Biscuits here, you don't need good micro, just run the swords forward, especially with control of both the workshops. You should have the res advantage to just lose more units. But also great timing from Biscuits here to join in as we wrap up Chipmunk versus Hoyo. We go over the statistics. And then we will go into Biscuits versus Maxi. to finish off the stream here. And I think this is kinda the story of the game, where Chipmunk won it all with the good feudal timing, having the advantage with the workshops, and Hoyo going like all in with the champies. And once again, quite even in terms of APN. Hoyo a bit faster with the military, but eco-wise, roughly the same. And Chipmunk, 67 longswords did the trick. And 42 champies and 17 slingers from Hoyo were not enough to deal with the men-at-arms, militias, and eventually longswords. As we get set up for the final set of the day. As we now have Chipmunk on 2, as I pull up the links for the drafts. Right. Also need to update the stream title, and then we're all good to go. Right, looks like we're all set. Game number 1 is going to be Trauma Pit. Maxi getting his Vietnamese first pick. Somewhat surprised by it that Biscuits did not ban that one. Although maybe not the greatest civ on these maps, although the Vikings, Koreans, and Celts, all great picks for Biscuits' home map Tradeseas. And Biscuits with the Mayans, the Mongols, Dravidians, and Cumans. And I do agree with that somewhat, that they're not that great on these maps, but we shall see what Maxi maybe can pull off here. As we... where is the wreck? So far down, because Maxi, of course, played all his sets already. But we started off on Trauma Pits. As we have Maxi in the blue playing as the Celts. And Mighty Space Fruit, aka Biscuits, playing as the Mongols. And Maxi already sending his Vil forward, doing the classic instant loom villager move here. We'll find at least one deer to lane. Does not see the other deers over here. So Biscuits will have some time to push in his deer. But knowing Maxi, he will be very annoying. Trying to wall off a lot of res. Trying to lane as much deer and boars as possible. Of course, the boars not really... No, there is no boars on this map. You start with 2 patches of berries, 2 patches of deer, and that's it. And then gold and stone are all located on the outside. There is a non-wallable line of terrain here. And Maxi already walling off what would be the safe option for Biscuit's wood line. Although Biscuits could simply wall here, then of course wall here to prevent Maxi from just deleting his walls and running in. Place a house here, place maybe the barracks here, or just palisade and then be safe here as well. And so far Biscuits just ignoring what Maxi does. Could potentially go out there, is going out there to the deer. But I wonder where Biscuits will now place his lumber camp. Maxi currently only has one on wood here and is sending his villagers one by one. And I also wonder if Maxi just shift clicked through or not. As I think Biscuits is now finding out about the walls. And Maxi does not have the vision of where the lumber camp will be. Could guess that it's on either side of his walls. And I think the main reason that Biscuits placed the lumber camp on this side is because the villagers path it this way. Don't think it is particularly because he chose that. And Loom coming in here for Biscuits as he is about to click up. And I do agree that this needs to be fixed as well. I will message John about this as well. But I don't think it happens that often. I don't even know if Maxi did see it, but I don't think he really realized in the moment that this was only 2 tiles. As we see Biscuits walling off his wood line. So these villagers are secure. And I am assuming that it's going to be a straight line of just 2 wood tiles remaining currently for Biscuits. And there we go, 2 villagers shift queued quite nicely. And for Maxi, he is a bit further in terms of chopping through and has 2 villagers on each side shift queued. But Biscuits, being the Mongols, will be up first. And could potentially make up some of that lost speed with double bit upgrade. Although currently only has 1 villager chopping through, so. Right, Maxi clicking up, 21 pop, right as Biscuits arrives. In the feudal age, was a bit late with the barracks, not the biggest of issues here. And we'll find out where Maxi is taking his wood. And of course berries. Maxi of course did get bloom at the beginning of the game. So Biscuits will not find any villagers that he can just pick off with his scout. And given that there is no gold in the middle, we will have to wait. We do see a range opening here from Biscuits. And I am assuming Maxi will do the same. Maxi almost through. 40 or 30 more wood to chop through. Biscuit still needs to chop 1 whole tree. This one has 50 and the one behind there, right. So 1 full tree left to chop for Biscuits before he is out. And Maxi is out. Let's see how long it takes for Maxi to realize. One spear here being annoying. And I think Maxi realizes, rushing his scout through. Gaining control of one workshop, immediately going out for this one. Will not be in time to deny Biscuits going out. And as I say that, I think with the scout maybe he can be annoying, but I don't think he can prevent Biscuits from getting out. As Maxi goes for a tower, we see a stable for Maxi as well. No range, but tower on the wood line. And a tower here as well. Not sure what this tower will protect besides some of the farms. As we have what it feels like is a very AI army comp from Biscuits with 2 skirms, or 4 skirms, 2 spears, the scout and the archer. And Maxi just doing the loop-de-loop. We'll check where Biscuits' woodline is. We'll see it. We'll see that Biscuits is not through yet. 30 more wood to go. And this gives Maxi somewhat of an advantage here. Although Maxi will need to start coming up with an answer besides the towers, I think. Like, this tower has not really done anything in terms of value, I think. Maybe this one has. But then you could also just house wall, palisade wall, and you should be fine, especially given you have the tower here already. Maxi now going for scouts. We have 20 on food for Biscuits. I'm assuming that is a lot of berry villagers. Although the 9 farms here quite nicely set up. Only 6 farms for Maxi, and we have the scout here being annoying. And recapturing the trade workshop once again. So 4 trade workshops for Maxi, who is skyrocketing ahead in terms of res collected, but let's see what that will translate to in terms of in-game moments. As we have more scouts coming out. And I think Maxi may be going a bit too heavy on the scouts. As Biscuits is about to click up. Could maybe use the market a little bit. Going for a stable of his own now. But a castle drop up front would be devastating for Maxi, as Biscuits has 4 on stone. Maxi using his resource trickle gold to click up to Castle Age, and I'm assuming Biscuits will click up to Castle Age after this villager here. And I'm not sure if Biscuits is the underdog versus a 2K player here. We do see the market coming up for Biscuits and walling off at least the bottom side. Trolling with a pointy boy, threatening the scout at least. And this army of 3 skirms, an archer and a spear, I don't think it's enough versus all of the scouts. Especially if we run in like that, so maybe Biscuits is the underdog. But currently 2 trade workshops, two trade workshops. Eco upgrades coming in here for Biscuits as well. Or Scholar not in yet for Maxi, as he is about to reach the Castle Age. Only has 8 farms though. So maybe not as important as for Biscuits, who has 9 farms. I thought he would have had a few more. And let's see what Maxie's opening will be once he reaches the castle age. He's going for a wall of houses. Would have liked it maybe to go a bit more outwards. Give him a bit more room in his base, because this feels very cramped. And it's going to be Skirm, Crossbow, and Bodkin. As Biscuit sends in 2 Skirms to try to see what is going on. As the rest for a castle, almost. We also see Light Gaff being clicked here. And stone walls are denied for now. Like I said, there is 1 tile of unwallable terrain. So you can never fully wall off. Like over here, there's also a hole between the markets and the wood line. But Biscuits takes a very nice fight. Scorpion is out for Biscuits. That's interesting. I would have expected the Celt player here to have the siege. Instead, Maxi built up an army of 12 skirms, 9 crossbows. Not sure how they will fare against what's in the siege workshop. Maxi does see the flag on the siege workshop. Also has some vision here on the vills on the wood line because of the walls he built earlier. But I think with the Scorpion mass coming here, with the Scorpion mass coming over here, this could be a very nice trap if Maxi decides to run in. Even if he doesn't run in, a very nice place for Scorps to just shoot at the crossbows and skirms. In the meantime, castle over here has gone up. The trade workshops are all in control of Biscuits for now. Maxi doing some nice microing though, has taken out 2 of the Scorpions, 3 of the Scorpions. And with only 1 crossbow left, I think Maxi cannot really do a lot of damage here with the skirms and crossbow, but he's sending in more. Has not added in any cavalry though. And this house placement is kind of preventing this Scorpion from just patrolling in. And you can say what you want about Maxi liking skirms, but so far he still has the eco lead. Rest collected lead as well, although that is very close with only 200 rest collected difference. And the first Mangadai are being created here. For Biscuits. As Maxi is expanding his eco, did add in the second town center. Second town center also up for Biscuits, who still needs to deal with the crossbow skirm army. And I think the 4 Scorps here should be enough. We have ballistics on the way as well. Definitely will help the Scorpions. Maxi has not reacted to the raids in the back of his base. Still has not reacted. Finally reacted, but so far The army presence here has caused Biscuits to have control of the workshop in Maxi's base, so has control of 3 of the 4 workshops on the map. It is 1 spear, 1 kill, presumably the scout that was protecting the trade workshop. Biscuits dropping in his 3rd TC. Could potentially raid a little bit with the scouts. And that's a nice spot for the Scorpion to sit. As I think Biscuits is gearing up to a 2nd castle, maybe this one even more forward. As currently the Mangudai are just chilling. Though the skirms are a great counter to the Mangudai, especially with the 2nd armor. Of course, the Mangudai's advantage is the mobility. But if we can just block off the passage here and the passage here, then the Mangudai don't really have anything. And once again, Biscuits being annoying with the scouts, leaving a few here. Leaving a few here, just so Maxi cannot just take control. Although Maxi very wisely queuing in a few spears. And if the light cav are on stand ground, they will die. Maxi going with a defensive castle here. Still needs to deal with these light cav in the back of his base. And what I would love to see from Biscuits is just a castle right on Maxi's face, supported with some siege. There is a few Scorps roaming around here. So if you could get them forward, that would be nice. Although, with Maxi dropping a EC here, Biscuits seeing that will deny the gold, will deny, maybe not deny the TC, but it will definitely kill it eventually. And castle will definitely go up. More villager kills here in the back. Eco looking quite solid here for Biscuits. As we have more villagers here on wood. Botkin finally coming in. Mangudai have been without Botkin for all this time now. And I think a few light cav here would clear up the army, although the army is patrolling in just on the edge to avoid castle fire. And then with the ballistics upgrade, castle did not really hit a lot. Right, Maxi deleted his TC, did realize would not have been a good play to have a TC there. Like I said, light caps will clear up all the army here, will give control of this trade workshop to Biscuits once again. And I'm not sure why Biscuits is attacking the stone wall over here, as I think the tower would be more advantageous to attack. Meanwhile, Maxi's eco looking okay. Maxi was forced into another tower in the back. Not sure if that's really necessary. Biscuit is expanding quite nicely. And we will see Imperial Age coming in for Biscuits here relatively shortly. Has some battering rams in queue. Clicked in here. Maxi not that far off, but is lacking the gold income. And I think this castle, if it could have been here, that would have been a way better position for the castle. Would have gave Maxi a bit more farming space in the back, maybe another wood line as well. And would have protected this gold as well. But Maxi selling some resources, using that resource trickle from the workshops, and clicks up and is doing some damage here in the back with a crossbow army. Of course, has 5 squirms in there as well. And Biscuits forced to bring home some of his light calf. Scorpions hop out. More scorpions being queued. Maybe not the greatest position for Maxi to run into. Or is this open? Oh, it's actually open, but Biscuits, of course, could also delete his wall to get a better surround there. But the army from Maxi will get cleared up. Foraging coming in. Finally, potentially, this house will get cleared up. Maxi decides to drop a TC on the gold instead. Ram push coming up here. Gold count looking great for Biscuits. Food count a bit on the low side, I would say, given all the upgrades you want to get. And we get Bracer Chemistry instantly, as well as a trap. And another trade workshop will be captured by Biscuits. And Maxi pops out with all of his army. I think that might be enough to temporarily deny the castle, but the siege shows up here as well. Maxi, playing as the Celts, did not make any siege this game. Did make some Woad Raiders. But I think this castle will go up, even though there's... Oh, there's only 3 villagers? Maybe not if Maxi decides to target the vills. Will it be a doubt castle? Maxi goes for a tower again. Did clear up all the vills. Woad Raiders roaming through. Cannot go through here. I don't think Maxi sees that. Maxi actively paying attention here and actively seeing that he cannot pass through. Decides to park the Woad Raiders in the back. Biscuits decides to send the village. Definitely will finish the castle this time. Even the light calf come roaming from the other side as we have another army up top. And I think Maxi is in a very terrible position. And GG called from Maxi. So Biscuits taking game number 1. What I have to say, I would have expected more siege from Maxi, especially as Celts. Especially as Celts, I would have expected some siege to be added in. But of course, I don't think that really is Maxi's playstyle. As we go back to the drafts. And we had the Mongols and Celts played. Update the score as well. And I agree, if the third range was a workshop, it would have helped a lot. I think Maxi had a sizable army that could have definitely done some damage. But I also think the towers didn't really achieve that much at home. Could have maybe done more damage forward. As I quickly adjust some things here. And load the second game. And that is going to be before math, Maxi's home map. So let's see if this is the final game of the stream or if Maxi can pull it back and tie the series up 1-1. We are on before math. Mighty Space Fruit, aka Biscuits in the red, playing as the humans. And we will potentially see some human booming. As Maxi is playing as the Koreans, and we will most likely see a more standard play with the Koreans. But could also potentially just be fast castle war wagons. Of course, the humans have a slightly faster scout. I'm not sure if that starts in... No, it starts in feudal. So the king can still run away if needed. And Maxi here with the extremely fast uptime. 14 villager uptime for Maxi. I would have expected a similar uptime from Biscuits. Although Maxi has control of one of the trade workshops, and we do see Maxi with some walls. And if Biscuits here forgot about his king, that could be terrible. Maxi, for once, did not go for Loom because this is an arena-like map. So we'll need to bring a second villager. King still chilling. And Biscuits forced to run away with the villager and the scout. Also, Maxi being up in feudal age earlier will mean that Biscuits could lose his scout. Although he is so close to his base, I think he is safe, especially with the castle here. Maxi wisely decides to not engage. The king for Maxi is also still out. And it was some Vil versus king fighting here. These villagers will not be able to wall in the king from Biscuits, but the scout might be able to kill the king here. Biscuits, though, I think he is close enough to his base where he is safe. And like I said, we will see the second TC here. Maxi did not spot that. But Maxi will have control of both of the workshops here as he's walling them in. And Biscuit saying, I made the lumber camp by mistake, which slowed me down. Yeah, I think with the trade workshops here, as we see one of Maxi's villagers dying. So Eco KD 1-0 in favor of Biscuits. I think with the trade workshops, it can be quite surprising how fast you actually get resources and are able to click up. But currently, Biscuits has one of the two trade workshops, is adding in the second TC. And Maxi here is just going for his second boar. And I'm not sure what the plan was here for Maxi going up this fast. As we have more scouts out for Biscuits. Right, kings both garrisoned in their respective castles. Starting scout for Maxi also in the castle to heal up a little bit. And Maxi, first one to click up to the Castle Age, not surprisingly though. And Maxi will lose another villager. And will make another tower. Maxi and his towers. Although, with Koreans, you could make a case for that this watchtower will become automatically upgraded once Castle H is researched. Biscuits though, 18 farms placed, has both eco upgrades. Maxi no eco upgrades yet. In comparison also only has 5 on food, which are probably going back to farms as soon as the boar runs out. Does not really have an eco setup for second or third TC anymore, given that he used his stone for a tower. Biscuits now also researches a wheelbarrow. Let's see what Maxi does once he reaches the Castle Age. At least would not have done what I would have expected, which was either forward castle with war wagon support or just try to boom up. And that is a very interesting market placement there from Biscuits. And of course the tower did get the upgrade, so it's a guard tower now, no more watchtowers. Still one trade workshop here in favor of Biscuits, which has allowed him to click up here. Needs to remember he has 2 town centers now, so he can still produce villagers out of the other one when going up. But I can also assume that he is busy dealing with the war wagons. And Maxi could potentially add in a forward siege workshop as well to try to break through. But for now, Biscuits just simply ignoring the massive war wagons. Getting his bloodlines armor upgrade for the cavalry line, dropping his second stable. Would not be surprised to see a third one. Definitely quite a bit of rest collected lead there for Biscuits. Partly of that, of course, comes from having a trade workshop and the 2 TCs. As we now have a sneaky siege workshop. Of course, the humans are the only civilization that can make the siege workshop and battering rams in the feudal age. Of course, only after the blacksmith is built. But Maxi is none the wiser about the siege push that is about to happen. I wonder how many rams Biscuits will go for. And I wonder why Maxi still has not added in a siege workshop up front to try to pressure the Cumans. Because I think the longer you let the Cuman boom, the worse it gets for you. And even with the trade workshops, we can see that it's not really advantageous to just let them be. As we see 2 knights, we do see chain barding armor. We did see the capped ram upgrade as well. And instead of going for the main base, Biscuits is going for the trade workshop instead. And with no units being there, actually the walls do not prevent the capturing of the workshop. Villager there will go down to the scouts. Knight though does not have enough support to deal with all of the war wagons. And with the rams being pushed away, Trade Workshop once again is in Maxi's control. Biscuits though going for a third TC. Really embracing the cumin boom. Does have 19 farms, so that would be enough to support the third TC. And also using the mobility advantage here. And Maxi once again trying to... Oh, he tried to delete the palisade wall, I think, but deleted the Ville by accident. The knight runs away. Scouts, though, will attack the monk. Monk will go down. 2,000 rest collected ahead 4 biscuits. As Maxi is now adding in a second TC. I think that is way too late. I think Maxi should have been pushing here. This is not an army that can, per se, kill Maxi. But it is an army that can be very annoying. And this villager here that has gone unnoticed as well. I think the... never mind. The outpost here has spotted the siege workshop at least. I would not mind just having a few outposts like here, here. Maybe here as well. Just to see what is going on, but so far biscuits just booming. 33 farms placed, is on stone as well. Has chopped through here, so needs to be careful. Humans cannot stonewall. So war wagons could potentially run in, that could be dangerous. War wagons did have ballistics. 11 war wagons on the field. And I think this is the time for Maxi to think about Imp. Try to make something happen there, because if he waits longer, I think he will be in a terrible position, as we see a castle now being dropped on one of the trade workshops. As we have a scout coming forward. Scout will see the castle foundation, but will not be able to deny it. I was about to say will not even be able to get one villager kill. As the rams here make short work of these palisades from Maxi, who currently looking very close to clicking Imp. 3 TCs, only 48 villagers though, compared to the 4 TC boom now from Biscuits, almost at 100 villagers, and slowly starting to add in a few kick checks as well. Maxi is close to chopping through here. Not quite there yet. Of course, the 2 capped rams can simply break through the walls and cause havoc with the 11 knights behind. Maxi realizes it at least. Garrisons the guard tower. This is a very dangerous move from Biscuits. Could get trapped here by a stone wall or stone gates. Rocket cart behind to try to delay the ram push. And Maxi clicked up to Imp a bit earlier, but Biscuits not that far behind. And with the 110 villagers compared to 54, I would say Biscuits is in the prime position here to do something nice in the Imperial Age. Maxi added in a battering ram of his own and is dealing with these houses, so eventually Biscuits will get housed. Biscuits will need to notice that and place more houses. As we have a university coming down, Biscuits is placing more houses, is also creating another TC. Adding in some skirms. Of course, skirms from the humans are not the greatest. As the ram here is still finishing up some of these Maxi walls. The walls from Maxi here actually give him some vision. Not a lot, but could be somewhat useful, perhaps. Lots of skirms being added. I think it is going to be a slow death here for Maxi, who did reach the Imperial Age first. Bracer researched. No university text though, so you see the Fire Lancers, which are great against skirms. Also good against the Nightline. There we have Chemistry. So let's see what Biscuits will do here. That's the houses up top from Biscuits are clearly not made to last. They're going down by the ram. But Biscuits doing a very nice job of just keep producing villagers, keep making army. And I think Biscuits will soon cap out at 200 pop, and Maxi is not relatively close to 100 pop even. As Maxi is now adding in his 4th TC. King still garrisoned in the castle. Maxi grouping up all his army at home. Could potentially start a siege push on the castle, protecting the trade workshop. The other castle though is... Oh wait, there is no other castle. There is only the starting castle. I don't think that would be the one to start sieging. I think this makes the most sense. And for Biscuits, of course, it only makes sense to go for the one castle that Maxi has. Like I said, Biscuits capped out at 200 pop, has some traps. Is dropping some siege workshops, is dropping some stables, it's getting all of his upgrades. And I think this is the time for Biscuits to start his push. Don't think it is... Or I don't think Maxi here has enough to deal with everything. Although I would like these skirms to be a bit closer to the traps. As the Fire Lancers and War Wagons are enough to push away the traps, at least temporarily. And Biscuits is kind of floating the rest for Paladins there. Not sure if he's thinking about it or not. But all the university techs here flying in. Iron casting as well. And I would not be surprised to see a paladin click here soon as we have the rest for it, or at least had the rest for it. As we try a new angle of attack here for Biscuits, leaving the front of the base completely exposed to the army though. Maxi going for his second castle. as we have a huge army here. Stack of 7 traps. Would still like the skirms to be closer to where the army is coming from and not on the completely other side, but one of the towers at least gets taken down. And with the traps missing a shot here somewhere, they could break in. I think there is a hole between these walls. Maxi realizes it as well, but is too late to wall it. Or is he? No, he almost got the walls off there. Now gets the walls off, but some of the Cavalier are in. Paladin is clicked. Lead Kipchak is clicked as well. Some of the Fire Lancers are fighting under the castles. The traps are getting cleared up though, so that is nice. The War Wagons will still need to walk away from the skirms, even though they're only human skirms. Maxi, a lot of his eco is idle. Paladin comes in for 10 or 9 Cavalier now. Not the greatest amount of Cavalier, but Biscuits is still close to pop capped, and Maxi is around 130 pop. Does not have control of either of the workshops. And Mighty Space Fruit almost double the rest collected here. And I do agree that the Lancers are pretty annoying for the humans. But given the res advantage and the army advantage, I think you should be in a great position to still make something happen, as we see Maxi kind of struggle to keep the production going here. Resources looking quite low. Resources for Biscuit not as high either, but of course is continuously getting upgrades, is continuously producing. And currently has Paladins out on the field as well, which is of course quite expensive. And I think this is enough army here to just clear it all. And let's see if Maxi realizes it as well. Or if Maxi chooses to fight on. He is not dead yet. Of course, he could still go for relic victories as well. Although that would be quite difficult given that Biscuits has one as well. And Maxi calls it. And Biscuits takes this set 2-0. A very nice human boom. And throw your hot dogs in the chat indeed for Maxi, who did not win the set, did not win a game, but did play very well considering his opponent is roughly 100 to 200 elo higher than him. And they were definitely very entertaining games. So let's go back to the draft here. So we also need to update the score. And we have the, let's see, there. Rians from Maxi versus Human, last pick from Biscuits. And I think Strange Games is kind of what you should expect from playing with Maxi. I think that is definitely the way Maxi plays. It forces you into maybe some unusual plays that you're not used to. But with that being said, I have been live for nearly 4 hours. So it's time to end the stream here. Let's see. I will be sending you guys off to let's see. Yeah, I'll send you guys over to Otter. Otter is doing a Tarnished Deathmatch, currently finishing up a set. And afterwards is going to be Otter Mondays, which is always fun. Perhaps we can find Maxi there in chat, as he usually hangs out there. But that is going to be it for me. I will be back on Thursday at 18 GMT, where I will cast the remaining row brackets. We will cast Benanji versus Rodrix live. And then afterwards, we will have Happy the Andy versus Ola Dushak, which will be played tomorrow. So hopefully see you guys Thursday, 18 GMT. And if not, I hope you guys have a very nice week. But for now, I will see you guys later. Bye-bye.